Hello and welcome to the Nova Wealth Show. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the show where we transform your relationship with your money by giving you the information that you need to grow and protect your wealth. I'm Amy Novakovich, and this is my husband and business partner, James. Thank you for being here.
Happy
we
to
haven't
be
done
here.
this in a long time.
It's been a long time. We'll be a little rusty.
Yeah, right. We've been doing podcasts with interviews, and we even had our daughter on a couple. One with you, one with me. But we haven't done this, just the two of us, in a long time. So I'm happy to be discussing this with you.
Great. Let's get into it.
Well, outside of the scope of investments comes the large pool of what do you do with your finances, to protect yourself against creditors, to build a legacy, to make sure you protect your money in the event of a child's divorce, all this trust and estate planning, which we are not attorneys, we don't do, but when we do financial planning and when we meet with our clients, it always comes up, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that's such a big question is, do I need a trust? Because I think a lot of folks, at a certain dollar amount, I think most people think they need a trust. And that's probably accurate, but even if they're not at a dollar amount, sometimes there's things in your life that may warrant a trust.
Trigger, right, and we'll talk about some of those things. But we did have on our live Finance Friday show that we do every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, on our Facebook page, Nova Wealth Management, we actually had an estate planning attorney that we love dearly, Ed Woolman. We had him on last year, I think.
It's been a while. We should do it again.
We probably should, because we still get these questions all the time. So we thought this would be so appropriate for a podcast because, again, it covers this huge topic of what do I do with my money? Besides investments, what else can I do? Okay, so the first one I want to talk about is, what do you do for creditor protection? And so many people think just because I have a trust, my money's protected if I get sued.
Yeah, and that's not true at all, really. A trust, a revocable trust means...
Yeah, define that for a minute because we're probably talking...
Right, so if you have a revocable trust, that means you essentially have control of your money. It's still your money. You are in control. You can revoke it. You can change it.
It's the name revocable.
Right. You can do whatever you'd like with that money. It's
also called a living trust. Like the same thing. A lot of people will call it a living trust, although I think that comes from the term living will. But it's technically a revocable trust.
Right. A revocable living trust.
There you go.
So a trust itself doesn't really protect you from creditors.
Especially if it uses your social security number. Most people will use their own tax ID number or social security number. Right.
Revocable, it
does.
It would, yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain what we mean by creditors?
Oh, that's a great point. Creditors are somebody that can actually take claim on your assets. So technically, someone you owe money to for whatever reason. Maybe they sue you. Maybe you have went into a care facility. Would that be a good one?
Yeah, I was going to say hospital bills.
Hospital bills.
Anybody you owe money to.
Anybody you owe money to. Yeah. That can take claim on your assets. So a lot of people will say, well, if I get a trust that protects my assets, and that's just not true. That there's a specific type of trust that you must have that takes the assets out of your control. So it's called an irrevocable trust. You cannot revoke it. And I love how Ed says it. He calls it the I can change my mind trust, revocable, and the I cannot change my mind trust, irrevocable, which puts it in plain English. I really love that.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, irrevocable trust. So because an irrevocable trust can't be changed, then that money is not subject to creditors. They can't go after that money because I suppose technically the money isn't really owned by you anymore.
Yours. It's owned by the entity.
Right. The trust owns the money now. So if you get sued, that's why it's protected.
Right.
So I think, yeah, that's good. I think those are important topics and important points to make on the trust.
And a lot of people say, well, I don't have enough assets for that to be important. And so the next question that comes up is family planning. So like, for instance, Jim and I guess technically, we're a blended family is what the term is. Jim has twins from a previous marriage. They're my stepkids who I love dearly, but they're not my biological children. The mother is still very much involved. And we also have 2 of our own kids. So we have 4 kids total, but from different marriages. So, it comes up when, okay, what goes to the 2 older children, because they also get assets from their mother, what goes to our children. So you have to do this planning, especially in a blended family. But not only that, parents that have been married forever.
Wait, so you're saying you jumped into the reason, you jumped into the situation, but let's stress.
Well, I was trying to give an example to illustrate the topic that I'm covering right now. Because I didn't want to just say family planning.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Right, okay.
So I was explaining a situation to say, well, this is what I mean by family planning.
Right, yeah, blended families basically is...
But not only that, though. If you've been married forever, let's pretend we were older and we've been married for 50 years and we have 4 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of money. We die, our daughter inherits a lot of money. She dies, her husband gets all of that wealth.
Right.
Even worse, let's say she gets divorced, and then he can take claim on, so now she's not even married to him. Her ex-husband gets some of our wealth.
Well,
Right?
Yeah, if we died before they got divorced.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. In a trust, so this goes back to my family planning, when a trust comes into place. So far we've talked about creditors, and now we're talking about family planning. In a trust, you can do family planning, such as, I only wanted to stay in the bloodline. So if our daughter passed away, then it stays in trust until her kids are old enough to get that money. It skips anybody who's not a blood member of the family.
Right.
So that's family planning. You can work around family issues. Should I bring up your brother?
No. Let's go back to that though. So it's just
family drama. Let's just call it family drama.
Yeah, ultimately you need a trust. If you have family issues or family drama, you would need a trust if you are concerned about where your money's going to go when you pass.
Correct.
If you, let's say you are...
Well, most people would say, doesn't a will do that?
Well, the thing about a will is...
It can be.
Well, the trust... No, I want to stay on the trust real quick.
Sorry.
The trust will allow you to, if you have a problem child who may have a habit, and you don't want that child to come into $1 million at one time, in the trust, the trust is really the only way. I suppose some annuity payouts you could figure, you could structure it as well, but that's, I would just probably do a trust instead of locking yourself in an annuity.
A trust is more sure proof, I guess. And it doesn't even have to be like a bad habit. Maybe they're just not good with money.
Right.
Is that kind of where you were alluding? Or like,
yeah,
they have an addiction, or, whatever the reason.
Yeah, you could say they can have $2,000 a month starting at age 25, and then they could have no more. Just $2,000 a month for as long as the money lasts, and that could last their whole life. Because if you give them $1 million, they're going to blow it, and it'll be gone.
Like, especially, if they have an addiction or whatever, they're going to take it and go do something awful with it.
Right.
But you can even put a milestone on there. For instance, you can say they get a fourth of the money when they get a degree, a college degree.
You can do whatever you want.
You can do whatever you want. You can get really creative with the family planning to cut out the family drama.
And the trust is really the only way to do that. So
go back to the will, why the will doesn't really do that. And the answer is the will can be contested.
Yeah, the will could be contested. The will has to go through probate. So
let's explain what probate is.
Probate essentially just means a judge has to look at the assets, read the will, and determine where it goes. There's a cost to that, and there's time for that. So the trust, if you have a trust in place, the trust says this goes here and this goes there, and it's done, it's clean.
No need to go to court. No need to go to probate court.
Right. So, a will is important. It's like I guess a catch-all, I suppose.
It kind of catches, things that you may forget to put in a trust, or maybe I went out and bought a really expensive diamond ring, the day before I died, and it wasn't in the will, or it wasn't in the trust. So the will might catch things like that. Like maybe I put in the will, all jewelry goes to blah or whatever. I guess I could do that in the trust too, but the point is that it catches things that aren't in the trust.
Right.
And so let's review real quick. So we've talked about a trust is good. An irrevocable trust is good to help for creditor protection if you're getting sued or if you owe someone money and they can come after your assets. And it's also good for family planning. That's really the main reason, I think. It doesn't matter the amount of money you have. It really doesn't. Because like your dad doesn't have a lot of money, but he wants it to go to specific places because there's family drama. So you use a trust, or like Jim had mentioned, there's some annuities that allow you to drag out payments, but it can't get as specific as a trust. It only allows you to do certain things. So if you've got an annuity and you don't have a trust and you want to look into that, maybe that's a possibility for you to change some of the beneficiaries on your annuity. We're not going to go into what an annuity is in this episode. There's different podcasts for that. We don't have enough time for that. But if you don't know what an annuity is, go listen to our other podcasts, or even I think I did a Finance Friday on our live show on Facebook. But so far, okay, creditor protection, family planning, to plan around family drama, to make sure it stays in the bloodline. And the other reason you would get a trust is specifically to just avoid probate. So many people, though, think that this goes for accounts, like brokerage accounts and bank accounts. It really only works for physical items, such as real estate or jewelry or art. Because some people will get a trust specifically for that. I don't want my kids to go through probate. I just want to have it in the trust.
Right. So all your bank accounts, all your investment accounts, you could put a beneficiary on those accounts. So if your family is...
A beneficiary is someone who gets the money when you die.
So if your situation is very basic, you're married, you've always been married to that person, you've never had children from another family, you have a home, you have investment accounts, you have a bank account, you're worth $3 million, you probably don't need a trust. Because you could put beneficiaries on your bank accounts, your investment accounts.
And all your physical stuff will still go through probate, though. Your real estate, your home. I guess if you're renting your home and you have no jewelry and no art.
Well, you could put the kids on the house. I'm saying basic. You have a house.
It's basic.
And you have investment accounts. You could make the case that you don't need one.
And an attorney will say that you need one for guardianship, like if you get sick or you become incapacitated, the trust can do some things there as well. And see, again, we're not attorneys, so
your directives will do that. You don't need a trust for that.
Well, directives are like power of attorney,
your financial directives, your healthcare directives,
health surrogate. Yeah, there's like 6 documents that really are the basic set of living documents that you can get that really are helpful to you for your planning, for your overall planning. Again, this is outside of just investments. This is the bigger picture, your overall estate, as we call it. But the other reason that I thought of a trust is to give the money to charity when you die. So a will, that's tough. Like if you want to make sure it happens, like a probate judge isn't going to be like, okay, now cut a check. Well, I guess I don't know this for sure.
Yeah, they are, if it's in the will.
Do they physically cut a check to the charity, though? A probate court? I guess they do.
Whoever settles the estate.
But it's nice on a trust. The way a trust works and actually gets carried out is you designate a trustee, like a person you trust. They're called a trustee.
Imagine that.
So like if I had my trust and Jim is my trustee, so when I pass away, Jim is the one that makes sure everything gets carried out as I wished in the trust. So versus a probate judge, and siblings and family members can go to that court and make claims on assets and drag things along, and it costs a lot of money.
Time and money.
A trustee can just physically cut the check to the charity. I guess that's what I was saying, is it makes it easier.
Oh, it's a lot cleaner. There's no question.
Cleaner.
A trust is cleaner. Right. You're going to pay, in Southwest Florida, you'll pay about $3,500 for a trust.
Right.
Maybe in different parts of the country, you'll pay
it's less, I
$2,000.
think.
I mean, it's different areas of the country are different.
But the difference between a trust and a will is meant after you die, it will go to a probate court that they will have to open your will in order to know where the money goes. Or the assets, or the items, the jewelry, the art, whatever. Whereas a trust has a trustee that can just say, this goes here, this goes here, this goes here. There's no probate court. There's no additional time and cost that a stranger can go through. It's a trustee that you designated to make sure that those wishes get carried out.